Hello and welcome, Madridistas, to a special bonus episode of the Managing Madrid podcast. I'm your host, Kian Sobani. Today, we are doing pregame Q&A. I know it feels like an eternity before Real Madrid play tomorrow. It's been a long week. We've had a long time to ruminate on Remontada discussion, hype videos, a lot of Instagram posts, a lot of confidence from the board and players, at least outwardly. I'm not sure entirely what's going on internally. And um, a team awaits us tomorrow in the Champions League second leg quarterfinals at the Bernabeu that is supremely organized, very disciplined, and does not let in 3 goals very often. In fact, it's been almost 2 years, 1.5 years to be exact. So that's where we are. And we have to shut them out and score at least three, probably four, maybe five. I'm not entirely sure. It's a tall task. So we're going to answer questions. If you're live on chat, drop your questions in the chat. This is a realization I also came to a few weeks ago when I did a Q&A on YouTube. And it's because during when I'm live on, breaking down the games with the crew or by myself, I don't have time to check the comments because it would be a disservice to you guys to just look at the chat. But I did test this a couple weeks ago, and I think this format works where I have an episode dedicated literally to just reading the chat and interacting with you guys, and it was a lot of fun last time. So we're doing it again. Before we get underway, I also want to give a shout out to Moji Mates. Today we're rocking Zinedine Zidane, France version, Zizou. We need Zizou's Black Magic tomorrow, that's for sure. If you want your Zidane shirt or your Jude Bellingham shirt or your Kylian Mbappe shirt or your Arda Güler shirt or your Vinicius Jr. shirt or Alfredo Di Stefano, hey, any Arsenal fans on the stream, any Kool-Aids, guess what? I know you guys are there, by the way. They have Messi. They have Thierry Henry. They have all of your favorite players. Go to moji-mates.com and order your favorite player on a t-shirt or a pair of shorts or get a sticker for your laptop. They have all those options. I also want to give a shout out to TAFC Academy in Toronto. By the way, we're coming to Toronto the weekend of El Clasico in the league in May. More details to come. But for now, head on over to tacsports.ca. If you're in Toronto, register your kids ASAP because summer camps are filling up quick. Certainly, for enrolling my kids, it was like just a shit show trying to get my kids into camps for the summer. It's already filling up. If you're a parent, you know what I'm talking about. It's like the Hunger Games. Parents line up and they wait for it to go live, and you got to press buttons really quick. The fastest person they buy the ticket to hold their place for their kid is the one who gets in. So I'm urging you guys, as a parent who wants the best for your child, go to tacsports.ca ASAP. Enroll your kids in Toronto in soccer academies, basketball academies, swimming academies, camps for the summer. It's all there. Best coaching, best facilities in Toronto, hands down. tacsports.ca. All right, we're going to do Q&A, answer questions from fans, and thanks for tuning in. Let's do it. 3, 2, 1, and intro.
Nice article in the Managing Madrid blog. Wonderful lads that do a great job there. And worth reading about that man there. Karim Benzema needs to rest, and the numbers reveal why.
Times ended up almost looking like a 6-3-1. Some very good writing about that on the Managing Madrid website. First-rate podcast as well. Of course, Fede Valverde was a huge part of the equation.
Well, guys, I think it's fitting that the very first question that came in, even before we went live on the stream, is a question that is very dear to my heart because it's a question that I have myself. Dipish Patel says, "Hi, Kian. What is the best way for us to do the Remontada versus Arsenal? More than just a belief answer, unlike Carlo, please. LOL." Well, I will say this, and Carlo repeated it today in the press conference. He said, "We need to play with our heads, our hearts, and our balls," which is a great quote, which only means so much because it will really be meaningless if Real Madrid don't pull this off. And as much as we want to say, look, if we're gonna go down, let's go down fighting and all that stuff. The damage, if you go out, your damage has been done way before the second leg. So, first and foremost, I will say, to be fair, you do need belief. You cannot go into anything without belief. If you don't believe you're going to be able to succeed in anything, you're probably not going to succeed. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy rather. And if you show up and you really don't have internal confidence, it's going to be hard to get to the finish line. As far as more tangible things, because you can also have all the belief in the world and have no plan, and then you're screwed. Again, I don't know what those solutions will be. I have some thoughts based on what I have seen Real Madrid struggle with this season and against Arsenal. It's pretty much all the same stuff. It's not unique to Arsenal. The best teams we faced so far this season have exploited it the worst. You know, teams like Barca, teams like Arsenal, teams like Liverpool. But these patterns of poor play and the stuff that's been wrong with Real Madrid season have been recurring, and the pattern is very consistent. And just the degree of which teams can punish Real Madrid really lies into the degree of how capable those teams are from a talent and coaching perspective. Ancelotti said today that he has a solution or a strategy. This is the word he used. Quote, I want to explain clearly to the players the strategy of the match. We have thought about it a lot. We are going to try something in training. I want the players to go onto the pitch with a very clear idea. If the players have clarity, they are able to get the best individual performances. So, and then he also said there will be no surprises tomorrow. And I guess he's just referring to, because someone asked him, will there be surprises? And I assume when he says that, he just means there's not going to be like a curveball. We're not going to see like, you know, Vinicius center back and Rudiger false nine. We're pretty much going to see status quo in terms of lineup. And you know, that's fine with me. Occam's razor, you know, the best path is often the most simple path. So, but we can talk about what Real Madrid should be working on. And I think you have heard me say this before throughout the season, but also after the Arsenal game. If you want to focus on what went wrong at the Emirates, one, it's that it didn't matter if Arsenal were in a low block or pressing us high and being more aggressive with their line. We struggled. We struggled escaping pressure. We struggled in slower build-up phases. And on the flip side, it wasn't just offensively we struggled. So we can talk about, like, should Arsenal go into a low block? Should they play the way they played in the first leg? If you guys tuned into BBC this morning, I was on BBC, and they had me and an Arsenal fan on the feed live for like 10 minutes. And one of the questions was like, should Arsenal go into a low block? And both me and the Arsenal fans said, probably that's not what they should do. They were so dominant in the first leg, then they should just replicate the way they played, because that gave Real Madrid a ton of problems. Now, the funny thing is, if they actually decide to go into a low block, because I think some people, and mostly I think Real Madrid fans are expecting this, not those who watch Arsenal play regularly. Even if Arsenal go into a low block tomorrow and decide to just go Getafe Atleti style, they're actually so good at that too. Like, they're really good in the low block. So it's not like our job gets easier. We saw sequences in the first leg where Arsenal went into a low block and we looked clueless. We didn't know exactly where we should be passing the ball. We didn't know what runs to make. But I want to talk about a flip side problem. This team is not just organized defensively. This team can get to their spots offensively. And for all the chatter about, you know, they're lacking firepower without Havertz and Jesus, and maybe they don't pump like 4 or 5 goals, which is not even true, by the way, because we saw what they did to PSV. But I think one of the things that is not getting talked about enough in the general dialogue of the Remontada is that if you watch the first leg, what happened? Real Madrid's front two didn't press. It was one pass behind them. From there, it's just pure math. You have an open man from there until basically Real Madrid's box, because we step up late, one late rotation at a time, and they just pick us apart and find the open man each time. Even if we go, and we had like these weird phases of zonal mid-block, and they always had an open man. They're very fluid in the build-up phase, but within a structure, within a guided framework, which is Merino occupies in between the center back, in between the midfielders and right behind them. So we had the double pivot of Camavinga and Modric. at the Emirates, and Merino was just floating in behind them and in between them. And so he always offered an outlet for the midfielders to hit. And if that wasn't on, you had Martinelli in one half space and Saka on another half space playing narrow. And anytime the ball would go wide, the fullbacks would push up and occupy those zones. So like Timber and MLS, my point is this long-winded way of saying Arsenal always have a vertical outlet free at their disposal because of the way they shaped off the ball. And so it's not just breaking them down that you need to worry about. It's also the defensive side of things and stopping them from getting into meaningful zones. Because as much as we would love to see a remontada and all the things go our way, like it's just the dream night where it's just the vibes and energy from the minute one are electric, Real Madrid are aggressive. We score a goal in the first 6 minutes, then another one comes and Arsenal just buckle. If all that happens, um, you still gotta, you still have to keep these guys out of goal scoring positions, which is way easier said than done. And as likely, if you guys believe in the remontada, you also have to accept that it's just as likely Arsenal will score first, and the rest of the game is just a complete torture chamber for Real Madrid fans. That you just kind of like you see handkerchiefs out of halftime, all this stuff. And I know like people just get upset for whatever reason, like, oh, you're pessimistic, you're not a Real Madrid fan, you have to believe. Guys, I promise you, what I believe or don't believe has zero effect on grown men kicking a football in a stadium with 100,000 people there to watch it. I have zero control. I have no influence on it. What I believe is completely irrelevant. So stop shaming me and other Madridistas for being pessimistic, because our job is just to analyze, and what we've seen so far has just been pure horror football. So if they're to play good tomorrow, it's not a, I told you so. It's like this is the first time they play good all season. So believe if you want. By the way, I think they can do it. I'm not saying they won't, but we have to be realistic about what we're talking about here. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So many questions, and I've taken one. Bit says, if we don't come back and lose the Copa final, is Carlos staying till the League Clasico or get sacked? I think he'll stay till the end of the season, regardless of what happens. And then if all those dominoes do fall, where you're out tomorrow and then you lose the Copa Clasico badly and you lose the league, I think it'll be done at the end of the season. Agree or not, it doesn't really matter. I just don't see them sacking, because what's really the point? You might as well let him finish the season and then have his goodbyes and so forth. Okay. Well, StreamYard is not letting me bring comments up to the chat, so I might have to just read them manually. Sashank Pawar says, if there was one team in the world that can make this comeback, who do you think it would be? I think we all know the answer. Thoughts on this? Well, if you're asking me what team in the world currently today, or are you asking me more about like the general aura of the team? Either way, it's Real Madrid. But if I had to choose, like, I don't think it's necessarily this version of Real Madrid. And I think sometimes we buy too much into this whole what history, dictates for us, because while it's true Real Madrid have some epic remontada seasons, they've lost the Champions League more than they've won it. It's more probable that they lose the Champions League rather than they win it. We went 32 years without it. We went 12 years without it. The droughts are real. We had round of 16 exit after a round of 16 exit. I think it was 6 years in a row. So not every era lasts forever. But if I had to choose, like, if there's one team to make this comeback, it would probably be like, a combination of Sergio Ramos and Cristiano Ronaldo and like Joselu to get the job done. I'm just skeptical of this Real Madrid team, and I would love to be proven wrong. I would love to be. I'm gonna celebrate and clip all of these negative takes I had. I'm gonna clip them. You can clip them. I'll clip them. Doesn't matter. I'll celebrate it like a madman. I'm just skeptical for reasons I've already stated. Mark says, if we win tomorrow somehow, do you think Carlo will stay until the end of the season? How do you think this team would do with Raul in the meantime? So I just realized that there's a lot of questions about Carlo and coaching and stuff like that, and like what happens. So I will just say this, and maybe this will answer all of them, and I won't take any more coaching questions. But I think the manner of which you lose really matters. So if tomorrow was an extension of what we've seen up until now this season, and you lose badly, or you lose in general, you lose your if you're eliminated and you just show no fight, right? Um, I think if we lose, there's a lot of us who hope, and I'm not going to say everyone because I know that not everybody feels this way, but there's a lot of us who hope that they go down fighting. Like it's like 2013, 4-1 Dortmund lost in the first leg, come back and win 2-0, and you just come up short, but you put up fight and there's like applause at the end. If it's like that, I think the board will look at that, right or wrong. And if we just go down without a fight and it's embarrassing, it's like Ajax 2019, then it's a different story. I also, it matters the manner of if you lose Copa del Rey final, what does it look like? The question about Raul is interesting. If you guys are members, you already have heard me say this on Thursday. By the way, there's a new segment on Managing Madrid for members. It's like Lucas in the mornings. He just goes like for 20 minutes and just goes over the news of the day, his opinion, and it's great. Like the feedback on it has been incredible. So that's a new segment for members. If you're interested, go to patreon.com/managing Madrid. You get a ton of bonus content, including Thursday's show, which is El Dia Después. We'll have me, Leah, Matt, and Angelo and Lucas, so 5 of us, the day after the Arsenal game. We're all going to log on and we're going to either have a therapy session or something, or a big picture discussion, and talk about what happened the night before. So that's only for members. You can hit join on the YouTube memberships tab on this channel. There should be a join button right underneath this video. Actually, just click on it. But also you can just go to patreon.com/managing Madrid. So I was speaking about Raul with Lucas on the mailbag for members, and I think it's interesting because if you are looking at trying to add Xabi Alonso in the summertime, I see there's questions about Klopp. Diego has been talking about Klopp. He says he has sources that Real Madrid are getting Klopp, and no one else knows this. Okay, but just the more theoretical discussion, right? So let's say if you have like the prize of a Klopp or a Xabi Alonso in the summertime that you have your eyes on. If you get Raul mid-season, I actually think the club should think about what the ramifications of that are, because I believe that Raul's personality and the figure he is, he's almost too powerful to let go at the end of the season. Think about this, okay? This is Raul. It's called Raul Madrid for a reason. He's iconic. He's also a political figure. He has been waiting for this job, not budging for Castilla for 3,000 years. He has been coaching. Look it up. He's been coaching Castilla for 3,000 years. And he won't leave. There's been offers from Schalke. There's been offers from Leeds. He's turned them down. Nope, shoot him down, shoot him down. I'm here until the time comes where I'm promoted. He's not going to leave after 2 months. Come on. He's not going to make way for a Xabi Alonso or a club. And I think before you say it, I think the board will actually struggle politically to say goodbye to him at the end of the season. Because no matter what the outcome is with Raul coming mid-season, he's staying. Think about it. If he comes in and he saves the season, like Zinedine Zidane style 2015. Was it 2015? 2016? You guys know what I'm talking about. 2016, I guess it was. If he comes in and saves the season, Zinedine Zidane style, taking over from Benitez, he's staying. No brainer. It's like, oh, we didn't know he was this good, and now we keep Raul basically for, and hope to build the team with him. If he doesn't do well, then it's expected. It's not fair to sack him, because it's not fair to him coming over with a month in the season left and he doesn't perform. That's not his fault, right? So you can't sack him either way. So I'm not saying one thing or the other, whether Raul should be the next coach or not. But I am saying that I think there's actually real ramifications of if you bring him mid-season, that might mean you're with him for next season too and beyond. Whew. This is the one thing I learned last time I did this live Q&A, that the comments move so fast and I'm so far behind. So bear with me as I go through it. And obviously I can't pre-scan for questions really, because it would be difficult to do that. But I'll just kind of take them as they come and just really clicking on random stuff at this point, and whatever is on the screen, I'm reading it. Luga Veloso says, I'm a Madrid fan just as you are. I do believe we can turn this around. Do you? Yeah, I do. I do believe it. But I also am realistic about it. I would not be surprised if we turn it down. If we turn it around, I would not be surprised if we were eliminated. That's the state I'm in. I may or may not have also used the opportunity for when Real Madrid went 3-0 down to use that as an opportunity to play some bets because why not? No, that's all I'll say. And okay, let's see. Zav says another Vinicius hate session. I hope not. I'm not sure what that's about. Um, let's see. Bits says if we score two, then we're most probably scoring the third. Sucks. This is all theory. No, but I think it's a sound theory. I think if Real Madrid do go in that position, they're at a stage at that time where they clearly have momentum and they're clearly playing much better than they did in the first leg, which also means Arsenal are playing much worse than they did in the first leg. So the idea of scoring two, no matter how you score it, even if it's like a shithousery goal, it will change things completely, no question. But that is the reality we need to hit. If we don't hit that, that's that small window, the margin of error is like zero in this game. Can't concede. Asensio and Rudiger are putting out fires probably. You need Courtois being super heroic. You need Vinicius and Mbappe to be lethal in transition, the most lethal they've been all season. And I could name every player in the squad. You need Ceballos to basically play like he's been in the team and in rhythm for 3 months and not injured. You need the Manchester City version of Tchouameni, the game he played there. You need whoever's going to play left back, whether it's Fran Garcia, and I think it probably will be, or David Alaba. Either one, they need to have the game of their lives at that position because you know what it's like for them to defend players like Saka and who else. There's a lot. There's like basically you just go down the whole list. It's not you can name every single player and say they need to have their best game of the season for this to happen. And if you don't, the margin of error is just impossibly small to go through it any other way. Oh, Arsenal fan, nice. Paul Nell says, as an Arsenal fan, it would if Mbappe and Vinny traded back as much, tracked back as much as Saka and Martinelli. Or you're speaking about like their defense. Yeah, there's two problems with them, three problems. One is that they don't press. Two is when they don't press, our entire team falls apart because as much as we can see like certain players struggling in the back line, it starts higher up the pitch. The third thing is they're not scoring and laying waste to teams offensively. And I've said this before. Like I didn't care if Cristiano Ronaldo didn't defend. If he wants to, he can take a fucking nap on the field because I knew he would score 50 goals of the season in the season. If Vinny and Mbappe were at that level offensively, I wouldn't care so much that they weren't defending. That's the reality. Let's see. Saban says Valverde in the midfield or right back. I personally think he should start in midfield. No, for me, it's still right back. I don't want Vasquez on the field. This is too big of a game. You cannot, and I understand, and I know, I agree with you. Fede is a better midfielder than he is at right back, and he needs to help midfield. But he can play as a two-way wing back. He's going to get forward a ton in the final third because he has no choice because it's an urgent situation. It's DEFCON 1. You need to score 3-4 goals. He's going to get in the final third a lot from the wing back position, and I trust his legs to recover defensively way more than I do Lucas Vasquez. Also, just a minor note, Vasquez is physically incapable of defending anything aerially, and given our Arsenal strengths and set pieces, Fede is just also taller and better in the air. It's another thing. Okay, some people are arguing about Zidane. That has nothing to do with me. Don Quick Fast says will be a great hate watch tomorrow. Good luck, my man. I really hope that this enriches your life. Your life sounds super great. Okay. Caron LF says, would you drop an attacker for an additional midfielder in order to have a Jude who doesn't have to drop deep this much? I don't. This question comes up quite a bit, and I think it doesn't matter as much as people think about like whether it's an extra midfielder or if it's an attack or third attacker instead. And I always go back to this. It's more about scheme than formation and lineups. It's about how you function as a team. If you play a third attacker, are you playing a style that makes sense? Are you keeping possession in the final third? Or do you have an efficient counter press to limit the amount of tests you'll be faced defensively? Is the way you command the high line efficient? Is it strong? Like the way Real Madrid play right now, whether they have a fourth midfielder or a third attacker, they're in a mid block, kind of pressing and holding a pretty high line and getting ripped apart. So whether you have a third midfielder, or fourth midfielder, or a third attacker, that problem is going to persist. So again, I think you guys have heard me say this, but I'll just go through my ideal 11 for tomorrow anyway. But it's Courtois, Fede Valverde, Rudiger, Asensio, Fran Garcia, Tchouameni, Ceballos, Rodrigo, Bellingham, Vinicius, Mbappe. Fully understanding, by the way, that Ceballos could not be ready to start this game at all. And I don't think he'll start this game because I don't think he'll be ready. But based on what we need from the team. And then you get Modric, Brahim, Endrick, Arda off the bench, etc. You know he's going to bring in Lucas Vazquez at some point regardless. Okay, people arguing about Negreira now. Nothing to do with me. Varun says, hi, Key, on all these reports about the team working on pressing and intensity in mid-April. And given we are not that team, you concern this attempt at perfection might end up hurting us. Yeah, of course. Getting it right for one game is difficult, but waking up every day and it's ingrained in your DNA to play a certain way is totally different. It's much harder to flip a switch than it is to be consistent at something. Depeche says, great points. Thank you for answering, Kian. I just realized that was from the very first question, so that's how far behind I am. Okay, so let's see. Hardy says, people don't realize Xabi Alonso was unbeaten only by last-minute winners by individual brilliance in the Bundesliga. Well, I think that's a little bit unfair. I watched a lot of those games. I think they deserved a lot of those wins that they got. And even if it was at the last minute, I think it showed their character of their team. I think either way, it's commendable. He also had no business, taking that team to where it went last season, whether it's last-minute wins or not. I think this is a really unfair criticism. Kool-Aid 767 says this Madrid plays boring. Is recency bias from Carlo's second reign during Mourinho era and Zidane era. Madrid played some good football. Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. I never really bought the idea of Real Madrid play bad football. It's just these are some of the weird kind of like PR things that come out of opportunistic takes come out of stuff like this, right? There have been plenty of seasons where Real Madrid played dominant, breathtaking football. It's part of the reason why I'm compelled to write a book about Real Madrid's history, and I'm almost done it. But also, you don't have to go that far back. You can think about 14-15 under Carlo was great. 13-14 under Carlo was great. 16-17 under Zidane was great. And I don't care about style of football. I think Real Madrid can play great or horrible in a low block, counter-attacking scheme, or a high press, aggressive, controlling scheme. It's not about style to me. And I think this is what gets lost among some people who are excusing this season by saying it's not about playing beautiful football, it's about winning. It's never been about playing beautiful football. It's about playing good football, which are two different things. You can play good football that is not traditionally aesthetically pleasing, which Real Madrid are not doing. Okay. Random Guy 101 says, Madridistas, we won 6 Champions Leagues in the last 10 years. It's okay for this one below average season. We will be back to the top soon. Firm believer in that is correct. I don't think this squad needs a huge overhaul. I see this season not as a failed, an end of a dynasty, if you will, for lack of better words, but more of a blip the way 2019 was. or 2023 was. 2023? Whatever that year, 2 years ago when we lost to City 4-0. You don't need an overhaul. You don't need a revolution. You need some tweaks. You need to upgrade the fullback position, and you need to sign a center back, get Dean by all costs, and you need a new direction, I think, in the dressing room. But you don't need to like revolutionize the squad. It's a good young squad. It needs some tweaks and some fresh ideas. Okay. We have a super chat in the middle of this, so I want to take that. City all the way says, I think the chances of a Madrid comeback are as likely as Arsenal winning 3-0 or by a bigger margin. Madrid's aggressive play adds a lot of unpredictability. What are your thoughts on that likelihood? Yeah, I agree with this. I don't know necessarily 3-0, but I do know that like Arsenal winning is to me just as much likely as Real Madrid winning. Because I think Real Madrid are in such a desperate situation and so eager to prove a remontada as possible, and they have so much ground to cover. They have such a huge hole to dig themselves out of that they are going to be vulnerable. And here's one thing that I haven't seen been talked about. What's ultimately different, tomorrow as opposed to 2022 when you came back from Paris with a 1-goal deficit, or you came back from Manchester with a 1-goal deficit. Real Madrid started those games not that aggressive and were more conservative. And for that reason, they didn't concede more goals. I mean, they did concede to PSG first. They did concede to City first. But what tomorrow brings is because it's 3-0 and not 1-0, you're going to have to play with urgency and chaos from the first minute and take risks. Now, I will say maybe because they're in that position, it'll suit them more because they're forced to play football. Really, let's be honest. This is the first time Real Madrid are forced to play football from the first minute all season. They're actually forced to. They have no choice. We actually have not seen that scenario this season yet. We have not gone into a game where we are forced from minute one to attack because we're behind by this much, let alone not just behind, but we're behind 3 goals. So we actually haven't seen that urgency from the first minute, So this is why I always say like it is possible is because when we see the team roll up with that kind of urgency, if they do get the first goal, then that's where the momentum shifts. But it's the risk they have to take. So, but I do agree with the general sentiment, which is, yeah, it is possible. Like Arsenal also just come out and just destroy Real Madrid. It is possible. There's no question. You cannot have that off the table. No one says, literally no one. That's the username. Don't you think Endrick should be getting more chances? I think he is better than all of our forwards this season in terms of finishing chances. I don't know if he's. I'd have to look at the numbers in terms of like shots on target. Oh, you can look it up now. Actually, why not on the fly? But the general premise of this question, yeah, I think he should be playing way more than he is because I'm honestly shocked that he didn't get in at Arsenal. I have no idea when I cut out because I wasn't looking at the screen. I think it was at some point, like when I was talking about Endrick and looking at his stats. 5 goals in Copa del Rey, only 1 in the league, 1 in Europe, 7 total. I think he's outperformed. I think he's surpassed the over-under I had for him, which was 5 goals. But I can't remember exactly what my over-under for him was. I have to look at it again. But certainly he's exceeded my expectations despite barely playing because I thought he was going to be I wouldn't even call him prominent, but I think I had him at like 5 goals this season, and I would have been okay with that. All right, we had another super chat come in. Srikar Chand says, "We need someone who can head the ball for a comeback." Yeah, I think you're referring to like a target in the box, which obviously brings the discourse back to Endrick, even though he's not like a traditional target, but he does throw people around. He is stronger than he looks. He is someone who can get into goal scoring positions and be a target in other ways. Arsenal Vision podcast yesterday with my connection, so hopefully it holds up. But yeah, going back to the super chat, this goes back to Endrick, and despite him not being a traditional target in the box, he can act as a presence. He can throw people around. The other thing I would look at is getting Jude into the box more, and the third thing I would look at um, is getting Fede to drive the ball forward more. You need more offensive surges from Fede. He is a cheat code on offense. We don't use that weapon enough. We need Fede to drive the ball forward. That's a huge underrated thing. That's a weapon we barely use. We need to get Fede up the field. All right. Yeah, and Karan says if Chu is playing, I need him to crash the box like prime Casemiro. You'll probably see that. You probably see Rudiger, flying up the pitch at some point. There's no question. Atef says, are you worried though about the board's lack of emphasis in looking for market opportunities rather than actual squad building? Yeah. I do think they will miss some opportunities because of now this is a double-edged sword. I wouldn't care so much about this if we trusted our young players. If we were able to throw some of these guys into the fire a little bit more, we were a little bit more daring with it, like we were with Raul Asensio eventually, which I wouldn't even say we were daring with that. We really had no choice at that point. And even when Asensio showed something, it took him forever to work his way into the team, even though he was our best center back this season. And I wouldn't care so much about this if we were actually, going into squad building mode. And you think back to Lenny Yoro last summer, it was Lenny Yoro or bust. And I'm not sure that was the right approach. I think you should have gotten another body. Now it's like that in itself is problematic in hindsight because if you did get another body, or if you brought Lenny Yoro, you may not have seen how good Raul Asensio was. In fact, I would wager you wouldn't have seen how good Raul Asensio was. So you would not have Raul Asensio as a Real Madrid center back this season, and God knows what the ramifications of that are for the summertime, and just like next summer and beyond. You may not have ever seen Raul Asensio be a Real Madrid center back. So these are all like good questions to ask. I think for the most part, the scouting from the board has been very good. The market opportunities have been capitalized on, have been very good. I mean, Rudiger was, one of them. Fran Garcia was one of them, though, and he hasn't really impressed us that much. And there's going to be hits and there's going to be misses. That's the reality. But there are certain situations where market opportunity or not, you need to go and get someone. Like the left back situation is dire. You cannot, pass up on someone like Dean Huijsen. Like you got to go for it. So the plan B often is like we'll just trust in the remaining players. And I think there should be exceptions to that rule. The answer to this question, Atef, is not black and white. It really depends case to case. But if you have a formula that you don't budge from, and this is how it is, you're going to miss other market opportunities because you have to be insistent on getting your guy. And if you don't, then you trust Lucas Vazquez or whoever. That can't be the solution either. KM says you don't think this squad needs an overhaul, but do you think the board will actually reinforce it? No chance. Yeah, I do think we'll see signings this summer, if that's what you're asking me. Good question from David Odudu, who says, you don't think Real Madrid needs a new midfielder, someone who can control the game in a deep lying position like Toni Kroos? I feel that is paramount. Yes, I do think this is paramount. My question is more, who is that person who is attainable and who can fit that role? I haven't seen any names in the market that are realistic for this role. No one will ever do it the way Kroos did. It will come around every 50 years. There's probably been two of them at that level in football history. One is Kroos, one is Xavi. We have players at our disposal that perhaps could develop into a deeper role. There is an outs. I've seen a lot of people float around Florian Wirtz, which if you get him, that's fine, but that's not really Wirtz's role unless he can grow into a deeper position. And then from there, you have to ask yourself, do we want to spend on Florian Wirtz and get him to develop into a deeper position or take, a different role and help us with our ball progression? Or do you bring back Nico Paz instead? Do you trust in Arda Güler more? The big one, do you use Jude Bellingham in a different role? I think one of the most underrated things about Jude Bellingham is that he actually is a controller. He can slow the tempo down. He is a terrific ball progressor. He is cerebral. He understands escaping pressure. He understands where the team needs to be. But right now, his role is just running around basically on defense and just putting out fires. So could you also develop Jude Bellingham into that role and then keep Nico Paz or Florian Wirtz or Arda Güler in their position? These are all important questions I think that need to be asked before you go and sign like the next Toni Kroos, who I'm not sure who that is. Oh, I cannot read that one. No way. No chance. I will be off that platform for good. Javi says, when compared to past right wingers, is Rodrigo really effective on the right? Let's be honest. Keon, no. It really depends on who you're comparing him to. Is he Gareth Bale? Is he, Michel? No. Has he done well overall in that position, given that he's not a natural right winger? To a large degree, yes, he sacrificed himself defensively. He's also just way too streaky. Like, he'll go like 1 month scoring 7-8 goals, and then he won't score again for like 3 months. So you need a more consistent version of Rodrigo. All right, so this goes back. Now I'm still far behind, so bear with me here. So now I'm coming across comments now when I dropped my connection earlier. Anthony says Carlo was listening and cutting the feed. It's very possible. All right. Okay, a lot of these questions I have answered. Guys, don't spam the chat with your questions. If if it's a good question, I'll take it, and if it's not a good question, I'm not going to take it. I'm going to be real honest with you guys. And it just makes it more difficult for me to scroll. Super chat from Leo Solomon, who says, is Toni Kroos's departure the reason we're struggling, especially in the Champions League, because he was our most trustworthy player in those games? His absence is not the main reason, but it's a huge factor. Like, if you were to make a pie chart of like reasons we're struggling, the pie chart is lack of synergy between Vinny and Mbappe, bad pressing, not compact defensively, missing chances, lost in the build-up phase, no Toni Kroos, no Nacho, no Joselu, because he was a profile off the bench that we could really use. Scored 17 goals, man. He's got to be on the pie chart. And Toni Kroos is a big part of the pie chart. I'm going, I don't know what the percentage is. It's got to be at least a third. And I'm not exaggerating, because he was a second coach on the field. He was a solution maker. And I'll never forget one of the greatest performances I've ever seen from Toni Kroos. And he's had so many. I was at the Emirates in that penalty shootout win last season, and that guy was floating against one of the biggest offensive onslaughts I had seen in terms of like aggressive pressing. And that guy was just, for sure, no question, just took a big syringe filled with ice and just put it in his veins, because it was not normal how unbothered he was in that occasion. We don't have that, let's be honest. Zane Derwish says, hey, Keon, what do you make of Real Madrid apparently not wanting to spend 50 million on Huijsen, considering our desperate defensive needs, but can spend that on a Brazilian attacker, LOL? Well, we haven't spent on a Brazilian attacker in a few years, to be fair. And I spoke to some people yesterday that I trust at the club, and people who are connected. I am not believing a lot of these reports that Real Madrid don't want to sign Dean. I just want to put it out there. I think what happens a lot in these situations is that there are reports that are put out, and then people eat it up and they get mad at the board for things that are not necessarily true. We'll see if Real Madrid gets Dean, but I don't think it's not a question of like, do Real Madrid want Dean or not? It's they don't not want him. That's what I'm gonna say. Um, I also think that if they try to get him, they may loan him back out because or just bring him in immediately. I don't know. But the reason I said that first part was because I do know that the board does have concern over the contracts of Alaba and Militao. And I think they would really want to not Militao because he's still young despite having those two horrific injuries. But the more urgent one to move on from is Alaba, which is hard. 2026 is the contract, and he's old. No one really wants him. He's coming off ACL tears. He's not who he used to be. I think they want to move on from that contract, and they would make their life easier. If it were up to me, I wouldn't care who's under contract or not. I would bring in Dean. I would just do it. You cannot pass up on him. Just bring him. Figure out the rest later. Damn, I will have some editing to do after this. Jesus, that was the third one. But yeah, I would sign Dean. I'm just saying that you don't need to get too worked up about these reports yet. Just wait it out. Okay. Let's see. Wissam says, would you sell Vinny? No, I would not. We have some short-term memories, man. Jorge Morales says, hi, Keon. How likely do you think that it is that urgency will turn into inspiration and better pressing versus anxiety and being all over the place? Okay, I already answered that, Jorge. It's not. It sounds like I'm taking that on you. It's not. It's not. That's not it at all. But I have answered this, and I think both scenarios are likely. And you just hope for the best. You can go back and listen to my answer, I guess, earlier on in the stream. Dewick Dwicky K says, back in 2017, I remember a lot of people, including you and myself, were hyping a lot about Marcos Llorente. Is there any former Castilla player that you think worth the hype? Many. The guy we're playing tomorrow, Odegaard, looked great. I think. There's obviously players who came out of Castilla. There's so many former Castilla players in Europe who are having very good careers who are not good enough for Real Madrid. But then there are also like players like Achraf and Odegaard who clearly, could have helped. I think in Achraf's case, it was weird, right? Because he had to compete with Carvajal. Mind you, Carvajal wasn't at his best for a few years there. And he probably just needed to play and be a starter. And Real Madrid were cash strapped during the pandemic, so they let him go away. But there's no question that there are former Castilla players that are worth the hype. The question is more like, are there former Castilla players who can actually be stars? Because to me, you always need the Lucas Vazquez's and the Nachos in the squad, or the Joselus who came back like years later. But there are players like Raul and Casillas who don't grow on trees, who are more rare. Player right now who might amount to something, Gonzalo Garcia, obviously, scoring putting up some record numbers in Castilla right now. We'll see where he goes with his career. He could be a potential, future target, a Joselu type figure, even though he doesn't have quite that frame, but he's really good in the box. So yeah. Okay. Okay, so this goes back to all the Cruz conversation. Shupa Dip Sarkar says, check your Wi-Fi, man. Yeah, I honestly never thought about that. I never thought about it. It's a great idea. Now your sources are cutting the feed. Yeah, bro, I've been definitely there's some Illuminati shit going on. There's no question. Okay, so this question is interesting. Bethail J, do you think Brahim should start this game? He's really good against teams that play a low block. I don't know necessarily if he should start or not. But no way in hell should he be coming on in the 85th minute, which is what happened in the first leg. So that cannot happen again. That cannot happen. Carlo solution in the first leg, I mean, there were no solutions. There was no tactical adjustments to what he was seeing in the second half. He brought on Lucas Vasquez and Fran Garcia, and that was not moving the needle at all. All it did was really just get Fede into midfield. Mr. Sushi22 says, Nico Paz, can you speak on him? Yeah, huge fan. I love what I see from him. I cannot claim to watch Como regularly at all. At best, I'll throw Siri on in the background as I'm like cooking or just hanging out with the kids or if I'm doing work. The analytics are through the roof with him. He's dominating Siri on like every conceivable metric from his position. The highlight reels look fantastic. I love it. It seems like whatever Cesc is doing there and the way he's using Nico Paz benefits everybody. So congratulations to him. It was super, super just great all season tracking him and you know making us really proud. No rush to bring him back. He's got a great situation going on there. We have the rights to him. When the time is right, bring him back. No rush, but yeah, that's all I can really say. Love him. Wobo Jog says, love the channel. As a Madrid Arsenal fan, couldn't ask for a better match, but gotta say Arsenal is my first love. Good luck tomorrow. Hala Madrid COYG. Well, must be nice, I guess, to be in a win-win situation tomorrow, I guess. Thanks for listening to the channel. We got more Arsenal fans here. This is nice. Wissam says, I'm an Arsenal fan. Respect the podcast you did with Arsenal Vision. You're level-headed. I subscribe to bump your numbers up. Big ups to you. I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. By that same token, if you guys are here, like the channel. I can't see from here, from my setup now, how many of you people have liked it. But Angelo, who is a far more successful YouTuber than me, he's got like hundreds of thousands of subscribers. He says you have to tell them to like the video because they don't like it. It's not that they don't want to like it, but they just forget. And like, I get it. Like if I'm watching YouTube, I never like a video, even if I like it. So it would help, guys, if you just press like. So if you can like it, I appreciate that. And also subscribe. If you're just here without subscribing, do that as well. Help us bump the algorithm in our favor. Okay. Harmanjot Singh says, best books, any recommendation? I have, not to toot my own horn, but I'm on pace for a book a week in 2025. I've been flying through. I'm on pace for 52 books, double speed, Audible, workouts, driving. But if we're talking about only Real Madrid books, this one right here, The Real Madrid Revolution by Stephen Mendes, as well as his first book, The Real Madrid Way, it's fantastic. Let's see if I can actually, I can still, you won't see me for a sec, but I'm going to still talk into the microphone. I'm going to bring a couple more that I really enjoy. The Duelist by Paulo Coelho and Di Stefano by Ian Hawkeye and Net Gains. So I just went over to my bookshelf. Here we go. This one is for those of you who are interested in the nerdy side of things. This is by Ryan O'Hanlon, good friend of mine, Liverpool supporter, appear on many Managing Madrid podcast episodes. He works for ESPN FC now. and formerly of The Ringer. Ryan O'Hanlon, this is Inside the Beautiful Games Analytics Revolution. It gives you a really great idea of how analytics and tactics have evolved in football and also how teams are using analytics now. This one is just a ton of fun. You will literally finish this in one day because it's that engaging. The Duelists by Paulo Condo, Pep Jose, and the Birth of Football's Greatest Rivalry. Paulo Condo is an Italian journalist who followed basically Pep and Mourinho throughout that entire bloodbath, those 3 years, and just wrote about it. So highly recommend. This is a ton of fun. I don't have the physical copy, but I'd also recommend Ancelotti's book. I did that one audiobook, but it's called Quiet Leadership. This is phenomenal. Di Stefano by Ian Hawkeye. After reading this, if you don't come away thinking that Di Stefano was the Michael Jordan of his time, well, that's the conclusion you're going to come to anyway. So I highly recommend this. Ian Hawkeye actually, before Di Stefano passed, he would have coffee with Di Stefano and kind of pick his brain a little bit, talk about his memoirs. It's an incredible story. It's all about Di Stefano's childhood, the mentality he grew up with, the mindset, and throughout his entire career. All the way from Millonarios to Real Madrid. Kind of what happened at the end, also Espanyol, but also mostly just about Real Madrid and his legacy and how Real Madrid signed him and the importance of his signing and who he was as a player, as a figure, as a leader, as just a complete badass goat of his time. And Ian Hawkeye is great. He's one of those guys who just doesn't exist on social media. You don't know him. I had the privilege of sitting next to him at the Bernabeu one time, but he's phenomenal. Those are the ones I would recommend. Great question. Neil Winter says Chouameni has been regularly played out of position for 2 seasons in a row, hindering his development as a DM, where he's shown great ability to pass. Yeah, I don't think this is untrue. I think there have been definitely situations where he's had to play center back and out of position and hasn't looked great. To be fair, he's also had, at least one incredible performance at center back. That was away to Leipzig last season where him and Lunin saved our ass, and Brahim. But he has been in and out of, different positions, not playing his best role. I will say his progressive passing has taken a hit this year. Second half of the season, he's been better. Like in 2025, the calendar year, he's been better. Another one who needs to have a big game tomorrow. Okay. Shubadip Sarkar says, love from India. Kion Halamari Naramas. Right back at you, brother. Wuzam says, I heard another content producer say, like the video, pay your rent. LOL. Hey, man, I like that. It's free to tune in. It's free to hit a like. You don't even got to pay anything. No one says, hey, Keon, can you collaborate with YJR? He is a Madridista like you from India. Cool. That's awesome. I'm not too good at knowing the content creators, but it is cool. Like, people have been reaching out to me, and I'll kind of look at their channel and be like, oh, yeah, why not? Let's do a collab. And I've been enjoying it, I think that's one of the cool. I know there's a lot of Arsenal people on this stream. And it was just kind of that was one of the cool things about playing Arsenal. We had never played Arsenal since 2009, and obviously that was way before I became a journalist. So I never got a chance to collaborate with any Arsenal people, and it was really cool to get to know Elliot, over the last couple of weeks. So, yeah, all for collabs. JM42 says no book about Cristiano Ronaldo. I don't have one personally. I'm sure they exist. There's no question. I haven't read any yet, but I will put a Cristiano Ronaldo book on my reading list. A lot of love for Di Stefano in the chat, which is nice to see. Sultan says, what is your sensible transfer for left back this summer? I'm gonna cheat a little bit. If you just Google managing Madrid left back signings, Leah and I did an entire podcast in November about sensible left back transfers, and I don't think anything has changed since then. Abhishek says, Keon, you speak so damn smooth, man. Awesome. Really appreciate your love for the club. Wow, that's very kind. I don't know if that's the case. Sometimes I just roll up here and I feel like I'm half asleep and I'm not doing a good job, but it's good to have those confirmations. Kool-Aid 767 says, Keon, thoughts on Faisal trade to Barca this season? He's more of a Kool-Aid than us. Faisal is just wherever he needs to be. I can't say anything else. Mr. Sushi says, I'm behind, but for books, Sid Lowe's book, yeah, I have the digital copy of that. It's very good, no question. Kian, I just wish to thank you for this podcast and other contents that you put out time and time again. Femi from Nigeria, thank you so much. I try to take these questions as much as I can in these comments because sometimes, people tend to gravitate towards questions and comments that are more like, they bring all this sometimes negativity with it, or, it opens Pandora's box in terms of what needs to be discussed and the engagement it brings. But a lot of these people who are, just leave these lovely comments of support. And I always wanted to this is part of the reason why I was really felt in depth to you guys to read comments better than I do on the other live streams. And I appreciate all these comments. I really do. Thank you. Shubadip says, hey, Keon, off topic question, but Di Stefano or Cristiano Ronaldo, who according to you is the biggest legacy at Real Madrid? I have Cristiano Ronaldo number 1, and I have Di Stefano number 2. And it's just that Cristiano Ronaldo is the greatest player in club history, and Di Stefano is the second greatest player in club history. And I've outlined all the reasons in my upcoming book. And they're 1 and 2, no question. And then from 2 to 3, there's a gap. Basically, they are the 2 Real Madrid goats, and then there's a gap, and then we get into like a table of like 3 to 6, and then there's another table of like 7 to 12. You'll see, but that's the way I have it lined up right now. BB says Sid Lowe contributed to anti-Vinny propaganda. I wouldn't give him the. You guys are so. I'm sorry, man. You guys are so in your heads and you fabricate so much bullshit. It's not even funny. I gotta call this out. You guys mistake analysis for hate. This is a real thing. Okay. I've been doing this podcasting thing since 2015. I've understood the rationale of fans over the years. I can see it from a mile away. You can't even hide it. It's so easy to detect now. A lot of you guys log in with preconceived ideas, logging in to hear what you want to hear and ignoring what you want to ignore. And it's not in your control. It's not even free will. It's your selective focus, and the scientific term for it is reticular activation system. People will log on to the podcast. A lot of them very extreme biased fans of certain players more than they love the club even, and they are just waiting for that one line where you criticize their favorite player, even if 90% of it was praise, and that's what they came to hear, and they hear it because that's what their brain wanted to confirm with their bias, and then that's it. Now you hate this player. Sid Lowe does not hate Vinicius Jr. You guys are out of your mind. Stop with this nonsense. You guys just fabricate bullshit in your head. I'm sorry, man. This is like not even about me. If it was directed towards me, I wouldn't even respond because I don't give a shit what you guys say about my stuff. But when you start like calling out this unnecessary stuff about other journalists, which don't make any sense if you knew these people, you're out of your mind. Sorry. Out of your mind. AJ says more collabs with TSFP, please, and for Clásicos, bring Diego to MM and vice versa for churros. Yeah, I think Diego's place is where it needs to be, and TSFP for sure. Yeah, we do collabs with them pretty regularly, like once or twice a year. All right. When are me and Faisal going live again? I think, pretty regularly. I think him and I came to the conclusion that like I think seasonal check-ins are appropriate. Maybe like 2 on my channel, 2 on his channel every year. Someone's just spamming about when is the Faisal collab. I love talking to Faisal. Faisal, there's like just some people like you have a seamless connection with. It's like going to a bar with your friends. I have that with Faisal. So anytime he asks me, I'm like, yeah, 100%, let's do it. Anthony says, hear me out. We wear the retro 1999-2000 kit tomorrow to inspire the Remontada. Oh man, that is my favorite. The Tekka black. I was so jealous. Leah had posted on her Instagram that she got hers in the mail. I'm going to share my screen with you guys. This is hands down my favorite Real Madrid shirt in club history. Just this image alone, my God, the feelings that this image invokes in me. As a 13-year-old kid watching this game live, seeing Raul and Redondo absolutely cook prime Manchester United. It's the nostalgia, the black, the gold trim, the Tekka, peak Raul with the short hair before his decline. These pictures do something to me. So this is my favorite kit in Real Madrid history. My second favorite kit is the centenary one with no sponsor, the Zidane, Baldi, and Glasgow. Okay. Anthony says people are too attached to players more so than the club. Criticizing a player is immediately defined as hatred. Yeah, it's just people mistake analysis for that's my point. People mistake analysis for hate or criticism for hate, when in reality it's just analysis of what's happening, literally. And it also goes back to like when players are very blindsided supporting a favorite player, or the inverse is true too. They come with preconceived ideas about a player they really hate, and that you see that side of it too. And it's like I can see it from a mile away. It's so easy to detect now. All right. Okay. Cruise questions, got that. Vignesh says, will you be able to interview Ancelotti post-match? I won't be there. Who's going to be there tomorrow? Sam Leverich will be there for managing Madrid. I don't know if he'll ask questions. Ty Jordan says, Keon, how was London trip apart from the match result? I love London. Any excuse to go to London, I'm there. Whether it's Stamford Bridge or Emirates, which was the first time for me. I love the city. It's endless things to do. We had a great podcast in London with our listeners the day after, which was fantastic. And, as far as the trip outside of the game, it was phenomenal. All right, so more collab requests. Yeah, this BB guy is out of his mind. Complete meltdown. One sec. More love for the Tekka shirt. I love that. Okay. Wobojog says, Keon, is it because we've been outside the Champions League for so long, or is it the norm with the amount of media news about the Madrid camp? So you're an Arsenal fan, right? Yeah. You were in here earlier. And obviously the Arsenal profile pic. If you're new to Real Madrid, I guess it's more of like if you follow the NBA, it's kind of like no matter what, everyone talks about the Lakers, right? If the Lakers lose, it's generally not about how good their opponent was, and it's more about how wide were they so bad, and that's the news cycle. So it's really the nature of the media cycle and how talking about Real Madrid and what happened with them, it just brings far more clicks. But to be fair, this is not an Arsenal issue, because Arsenal have a huge fan base. I mean, look at the Arsenal Vision podcast. It's incredible what they've built. I mean, the fans are insane. But if you're new to like how it works with Real Madrid, yeah, that's how the news cycle works. It's like the Lakers or the Knicks. Like no matter how bad or good they are, that's what people want to talk about. AR says, "Hey Keon, Nemerium here on an alternate account. Would you collaborate with Global Madridista? He is a socio, I believe, or just a Spanish Real Madrid supporter. Good Real Madrid channel here on YouTube as well." Yeah, Miguel. Miguel reached out to me actually a few months ago. We played email tag, and we gotta, I guess, kickstart the discussion again. Yeah, I'd love to collaborate with Miguel. Seems great. Wissam says dipping up for Champions League matches. Isn't that time already? I thought it's not. We have another 40 minutes. Yeah, we have 40 minutes. Damn, you made me sweat for a second. Okay. Shubhadeep says, "Hey Keon, I think Modric has a bigger legacy as a Real Madrid player than Zidane. Do you agree? I know Zidane is the greatest midfielder of all time. I'm talking about legacy as a Real Madrid player. Yeah, there's no question. This shouldn't be a debate, by the way. This should not be a debate. Modric has a greater Real Madrid legacy than Zinedine Zidane, who I love and I have all the respect for in the world. But yeah." EB says, "This is a long stream, Keon." Oh my God. I'm so sorry, EB. Unfortunately for you, there's a metaphorical gun to your head and you have to stay no matter how long I'm on the stream for. Am I almost caught up? Wow. I think I am. I think I'm talking about that. Daniel End 8 says, "Hi Keon, it's not Real Madrid related question, but do you like other sports aside from football? Personally, I love basketball, especially the NBA and darts." Oh, darts is cool. Basketball, yeah, NBA. I grew up first and foremost. I was an NBA fan more than anything. Michael Jordan, the Chicago Bulls, that was my team. Yeah, called me a bandwagoner. I don't know what to tell you, but Michael Jordan was the coolest kid, coolest dude to ever walk the planet. And I was a huge fan, so I would stay up late as a kid in elementary school, seeing if the Bulls would win. Supporting them like almost as much as I support Real Madrid now. Then Jordan retired, didn't care about the Bulls anymore. Vince Carter came along, and given my ties to Toronto and being Canadian, the Raptors were my team and have continued to be my team even up until this day, even though they suck. So I am an NBA fan as well. And now I'm more of a casual. I don't really sit down late and watch NBA games. I'm more of like catch the 9-minute recap in the mornings that NBA TV has. And it's still fun to me. The playoffs this year are going to be really good. The matchups are pretty great. All right. I was caught up, and then all of a sudden there was a flurry of comments. I could keep going. Why not? YOLO. Zane says, "I'm new to the pod and don't know how I haven't come across you guys in years past. I'm 25 years old and not a new Real Madrid fan." Welcome to the under the radar hipster Real Madrid world, Zane. We are not that mainstream, I don't think. EB says, "I wasn't complaining about the long stream. LOL, I was just more surprised you were still on. I left earlier for a work meeting and came back and you were still live." Yeah, no worries. I'm just busting your balls. An hour 16. It's not unheard of. We've done 2-hour streams before, but yeah. It is fun. It's partly because I'm having fun. If I wasn't having fun, I probably would have been gone after like 20 minutes, but I enjoy speaking to you guys. Imran Hatabi says, "Hello, Keon. What is the biggest thing that Barca has that we don't have this season?" Well, they have a very coherent, competent structure that maximizes the strengths of the squad that they have. And a lot of that comes down to Hansi Flick. They have probably the wingers in the best winger combo on the planet right now, at least in terms of form. Lamine Yamal is incredible. Rafinha is incredible. They mask their defensive frailties with a high line and an offside trap. They are positionally superior to most teams they play against, if not all teams they play against. They pounce on every 50-50 loose ball for a reason because they know exactly how to counterpress. And they're just dominant offensively. And they score a bunch of goals, and their offside trap cleans up most of the defensive frailties. And if they concede, they concede. It's a trade off because they score like 4 or 5 goals a game. And I think Hansi Flick deserves a lot of credit for that. Mm-hmm. Varun says, Keon, are there any teams you support apart from Real Madrid, teams you like to watch? I've never supported another team. I've never had like a second team, but there have been like teams that I generally like or had like or just like enjoy or at least don't hate. I've always liked Inter. Don't ask me why. This goes back to like how cool they were in the days of Seedorf, Nazario, Baggio, Vieri, you know, Javier Zanetti. Even now, I love the way they play. I love Simone Inzaghi. So Inter, I've always liked River Plate, and I think that's part of the, because of the ties that Real Madrid had with their connections and players in the past, like Di Stefano. Um, yeah, there's no one really that I like. I actually liked Arsenal for what it's worth. The Henri Pires, Lundberg, Bergkamp days were fun. I like to enjoy that. Uh, no one says, "Hey, Keon, off topic, but how did you get into being a Real Madrid journalist? If you can explain, please." A lot of luck and relentless hard work is the way I put it. The long story is that I was in university or sorry, not the long version. I meant to say the short version. I'm not going to bore you with the long version. The short version is I was in university studying psychology. I wanted to become a child psychologist, believe it or not, and I wanted to help kids, and I wanted to contribute to society that way. When I was in university, I was taking a psych degree, but I came to a very abrupt realization, which I should have seen coming, that in order to do this, I need master's and PhD. And at that time, I was so sick of school. I hated studying subjects that don't really absolutely fascinate me. I can't really study it. It's hard for me, right? I'm sure you guys are the same, but maybe there are people who are just so studious and so good at it. I wasn't. Um, at the same time, I would plan all my courses, university courses, around Champions League games. If it was down to a course I needed to take to graduate or watching Real Madrid play on a Tuesday or Wednesday, I would choose Real Madrid on a Tuesday or Wednesday. And I do not recommend this. This is actually pretty stupid. If my son did this, I'd be upset. But that's where my interest was. So then after a while, I was like, hold on a second. I'm not studying. I'm not taking these courses seriously. I'm watching Real Madrid play. I'm like blogging about it for fun. Can I turn this into a career? Long story short, letters of rejection, writing for free for years, eventually stumbling upon this and setting goals and working day and night at it and being relentless with it for almost 10 years. EB says, is this a new manager bounce for Barca? Do you think they will regress next season? New manager bounce doesn't last this long. It doesn't last this long. Now, I can't sit here and say that, there won't be a sophomore slump next year and maybe they'll regress from this year. I can't say that for sure either way, but new manager bounce is like a month or two. It's not an entire season. So I don't think this is new manager bounce. I think this is real. Okay. I feel like I'm caught up. Let me just double check the super chats, make sure I didn't miss any. I don't think I did. If some of these questions that are coming in now, guys, with all due respect, I answered them earlier in the stream. So you can go back, listen to it, but just for the sake of the listeners, I can't really repeat it. It's not fair to anyone listening. So yeah, 1 hour, 20 minutes with 3 Wi-Fi drops in between, which I'll have to figure out to edit. If you guys like reading stuff and not just listening to podcasts or whatever, go to managingmadrid.com. I have 2 features on the website right now. One I wrote last night, which is called 2 items among many I didn't like from Real Madrid's first leg performance against Arsenal. And I talk about Arsenal's defense and offense. And I'll just bring it up on the screen so you guys can see. Just go to managingmadrid.com. You'll see a ton of content, okay? And then this one here, a comeback, let's put that aside. Real Madrid have shown us nothing this season. So those are my 2 features that are pinned on the website now. And of course, the regular news. You can see the Mbappe suspension, Ancelotti and Jude's pregame press conference quotes, articles from the staff. All of our podcasts are listed here too. We also have this cool thing where it says a daily thread. Like the let's see, what's today's daily thread? Is it? Oh man, it's down here somewhere. Oh, here we go. So this is like what a daily thread looks like. It's just a placeholder where fans can come and just hang out in the comments. And there's always a written element that goes with it. It's always kind of like just thoughts from the moderators and also some news that they like to embed in there from the aggregator accounts and whatnot. And if you scroll down, there's an entire just comment section that's flying. Like this one already has almost 400 comments. So if you want a placeholder, like just a place to chat and meet other Madridistas, actually the daily thread on managingmadrid.com is a great spot to do. We also have a Discord. If you literally search Managing Madrid Discord on Google, it's like the first or second one that comes. It should be the first one that comes up, and you can just join there. And yeah, awesome. AJ says future projects for Castilla Corner. Yeah, you'd have to ask them. I mean, Sam and Herdium are basically spearheading it. I think they have plans to continue it. It just won't be on Managing Madrid. So we've kind of restructured things a little bit here, and yeah. But I hope that they will fire something up. I do know that they're active on audio, like Twitter Spaces. Like if you check them after games and stuff, so you can catch them there. But just catch them on Twitter as well. Reach out to them and encourage them because I think they do a great job as well. One more thing. Tomorrow, obviously, we'll be back right after the game. Win, lose, draw, humiliation, epic comeback, whatever the case. We are here. We show up to do the post-game show. I think tomorrow I'll be doing a solo post-game show after the game, and then Thursday, there's 5 of us for members. Lucas, Angelo, Leah, Matt, and myself. 5 of us are going to be doing the El Dia Después version of the day after Arsenal versus Real Madrid, and that's only for members. Go to patreon.com/managingmadrid. If you're YouTube, you can simply just hit join on the memberships tab on this channel. It was a pleasure, guys. I enjoy interacting with you. The comments are great. I have no problem also just shooting down bullshit, as you've seen. So thank you for tuning in. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart. This is great. This would be kind of fruitless if we were just talking to ourselves. So it means a lot that you guys show up and support the stream. It means a lot. If you haven't already, please like the video. Thank you so much for supporting. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys tomorrow after the game at the final whistle. It's currently scheduled for 11 p.m. CET. But if it goes into extra time, obviously, and penalties, then we'll just delay the stream. So, yeah. Appreciate you guys. Kiyan Sobani signing off. And take care and Hala Madrid.